For today's lesson, we will discuss what phrasal verb, transitive phrasal verb, and lastly particle movement transformation is. But before we tackle that, let us evaluate first what ideas you know about the topic that we're gonna discuss. So in our quiz, write all the things that you know about our topic and send it to the chat box. But if you didn't know, then just write your ideas, what might be the topic is all about. So now, let us proceed to our discussion, which we will gonna start at the phrasal verb. So, phrasal verb is a combination of a verb and preposition or an adverb, or it can be both. Hence, a phrasal verb consists of a verb and one or two words such as on, in, up, about, down, away, after, with, or etc. So technically, phrasal verb is all about a phrase which only consists of a verb or an adverb, then a preposition, and for you to understand more, let us give more examples. So an example of it is give up, bring up, look after, turn down, pass away, break down. This is break into, not break I go. So carry on, carry out, put off, put out, look forward to, put up with, look down on, and etc. So as we can see in the given example, we should take note that a phrasal verb has a meaning which is different from the original meaning of the verb. For instance, she was brought up by her stepmother. So the phrasal verb there is bring up, which means to raise a child. Another example is the old man passed away. The phrasal verb is pass away, which means to die. Another example is our car broke down on highway, which break down is the phrasal verb, which means stop functioning. It's not working anymore. And the next example that we have is the nurse was looking after the patient. The phrasal verb there is look after, which means to take care of. And lastly, but not the least, is trying to give up smoking. So the phrasal verb that we consider in that sentence is give up, which means to quit. So we can really see that a phrasal verb has already have a meaning. So and now let us go learn what transitive phrasal verb is. Transitive phrasal verb requires an object in the sentence because without an object, a sentence having a transitive phrasal verb cannot give a complete meaning. So, if phrasal verb has already have a meaning without a meaning, the transitive phrasal verb is to contradict it, which means transitive phrasal verb needs an object first to have its meaning or a complete meaning. So, an example of it are she looks after her children, which the phrasal verb there is look after and the object is the children. So, if we will gonna observe it, she looks after. If that's the only sentence that we will gonna use, it is not giving us a complete thought or meaning. We will ask, she looks after what? Who? Who is she looks after, right? So, for us to able to understand more and to give it a complete meaning, we need to add an object, which is the children. So to have it a full complete meaning, the sentence must be she looks after her children. So another example that we have here is they carried on their work, which carry on is the phrasal verb and work is the object. Another example is the flood brought about a huge disaster, where brought about is the phrasal verb and disaster is the object. Other more example is they called off the meeting, which called off or call off is the phrasal verb and meeting is the object. And lastly, he gave up smoking, where gave up is the phrasal verb and smoking is the object. And now, I hope that you're able to understand and learn what phrasal verb and transitive phrasal verb is, because now we will going to tackle the particle movement transformation. So particle movement transformation is a paradigm case of syntactic variation in English. The movement can be optional, compulsory, or even restricted based on some conditions. And now, observe these sentences. The first example, Mary cut down the tree, which you can see that there is a phrasal verb which is cut down. And it transformed into Mary cut the tree down. In the second example, look up the number, which look up is the phrasal verb and it transformed into look the number up. So if you're gonna analyze it or observe it, in the first sentence or in the first example, you can see that there is a phrasal verb which is the cut down, and on that phrasal verb there is a particle in that, which is the word down. So in particle movement transformation, the particle will move before or after the object. So therefore, you can observe that in the second sentence or the transformation of the previous example, the word down is placed after the object, which is the tree. Same as the second example, the phrasal verb there is look up. So the particle is up. So when the transformation is made, so the up is moved after the object, which is the number. So it became look the number up. So aside from that particle movement transformation, it also had types, which is the optional particle movement, compulsory particle movement, and lastly the restricted particle movement. So we were gonna discuss those types. So first, let us discuss the optional particle movement. In the optional particle movement, the particle movement is optional if the object is a simple noun phrase or NP. For example, didn't call up the boy. You were gonna ask, what is noun phrase? Or where is the noun phrase there in that sentence? So you can see that noun phrase in that sentence is the boy. So it said that there will be an optional particle movement if the object is a simple noun phrase, or just like that, the boy or the girl or whatsoever. So when the particle movement transformation have been made on this optional, it transformed into didn't call the boy up. So did you see? Because the phrasal verb there is call up, and and the up is the particle. The up is moved after the object or the noun phrase. That's why it became didn't call the boy up. So let us note that if the rule is not applied in didn't call up the boy, the structure is still acceptable because the object is a simple noun phrase. So now let us proceed to the compulsory or obligatory particle movement with personal pronouns and reflexive pronouns. The particle movement transformation is optional in subject, verb, direct object sentences with particles, except when the direct object, the NP, is a personal pronoun. In this case, the transformation is obligatory, optional movement. So let us give some example. First is the personal pronoun. JC called up him. The personal pronoun there is him. So still the phrasal verb that we use is called up and the particle there is up. So when the movement has happened, it became JC called him up. Yeah. So next, reflexive pronoun. Reflexive pronoun, we have the example there here is JC let out herself. And the reflexive pronoun is herself. Remember guys that reflexive pronouns are myself, herself, himself, and etc. Okay, so here when the movement transformation has happened, it became, let out is the particle or the phrasal verb, and out is the particle which is needed to move after or before the object. So it became JC let herself out. Do you understand? That's how that's how movement happens. So now let us go to the restricted particle movement. Okay, so in this, particle movement can be restricted if the object is a heavy NP or noun phrase. For example, Mark sent out the boy who always makes noise in the class. So we will gonna ask, what is the noun phrase there or the heavy noun phrase there? As you can observe, the heavy noun phrase there is the noise in the class. So in the class, it is heavy because it is lot of people. So in our example, send out is the phrasal verb. So the particle is out. So when we transform or when we do the transformation movement, it became Mark sent the boy who always make noise in the class out. I hope you get it or you still can understand it. So now those are the three types. I guess it's three types of the particle movement that we should know. So there's a note that we should always remember. In the previous examples that we had, if the particle out is moved into the final position, the second sentence structure becomes unacceptable. So that's the note that we should remember. In the restricted particle movement example that we had in the previous. So now, since we already finished the lesson, and I hope that you already understand the lesson that we had right now, we will have an activity which you need to identify these things. So I don't know if maybe just send your answers privately in me. Yeah, and I'm just gonna wait for those. So that's all the thing that we had for today. I hope that you have learned something in this lesson, and I hope you won't gonna forget this. So yeah, thank you for listening, and have a good day.